Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter of one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to them live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. And if you want to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 36 of A Familiar Death. Marlot's jaws were clenched tight as they drove across town, and he emitted a constant growl. Trembor tried to talk to his wolf, but Marlot either ignored him or didn't hear. The house they parked before was modest, a one-level home with plain wood siding. The porch had two rocking chairs that seemed to have been made from tree branches. Marlot made an effort to calm himself as Trembor followed him to the door. He knocked, and a moment later an older beaver answered him in a worn shirt and gray pants covered with sawdust. "Mr. Flats?" Marlot began, showing him his ID. "I'm registered investigator Marlot Blackcloud. This is my—" "I know you," the male cut him off. "You're Keyless's cub, the tail raiser." Marlot ground his teeth. "I don't care what you think of me. I'm here to talk with whoever is the computer expert in the house. I don't have one of those here. We're woodworkers." "Mr. Flats, I know. Get off my property before I get Bannerick to shove you off." "Marl," Trembor warned as his wolf began growling. "So you're not going to be to bring forth whoever the hacker in your family is?" Marlot's tone was dark. The beaver grinned. "I'd rather you go get something unpleasant shoved up your ass instead." He began to close the door, but Marlot shouldered him aside. With a sigh, Trembor followed to keep him from getting himself into too much trouble. He rushed through a living room where all the furniture seemed handmade, through a hall with small sculpture on wood tables and cabinets. Marlot opened doors to look into rooms until he got a curse from the occupant. "Dad, how many times do I have to—" "You're not my dad." Trembor reached the doorway to see a beaver a few years younger than his wolf facing them. Behind him was a computer system that even he, with his lack of knowledge, had to admit looked impressive. 6 large screens hung on the wall with 4 computers under the desk. He recognized one of them as Interon's most recent system because Marlot had gone on and on about it when it hit the market a few weeks ago. Trembor could imagine the envy the system caused in his wolf, but when Marlot spoke, his tone was professional. "I'm R.I. Blackclaw. This is my partner, R.I. Goldenmane." "You're not with the enforcers," the beaver said. He looked far too calm for Trembor's liking. "No, we're looking into Nago's death. Yeah, I know." The beaver nodded. "Okay, I can manage that," he said to himself. "What's your name?" Trevor asked. "Valorant Flats. Can you come in and close the door? I don't want my dad to hear this." "Why not?" Marlot asked, stepping forward. Trembor followed him and closed the door. Now he could see this was an office with shelves filled with books on computers. Because he doesn't know about what because he doesn't know about what you want to talk about. Because he doesn't know about what you want to talk about, and I want to stay it that way. Because he doesn't know about this, and I want it to stay I want it to stay like that. "So you know why we're here?" Trevor asked. "Of course. Someone noticed me in that lab system. I was expecting the enforcers to show up, but I've been monitoring their communication and they haven't said anything. So I'm guessing whoever it was worked for you." "Who are you to hack the Arcego server and destroy our evidence?" The beaver shook his head. Marlot stomped to him. "Marl, I won't touch him. I wouldn't touch me if I were you," Valorant said. Marlot stopped within arm's reach. "Why not?" His hands were clenched into fists. "Why shouldn't I just eat you right here? You think you're going to make much of a dent in my budget?" The beaver chuckled nervously, but he didn't back away. Probably not, but I know you. You wouldn't want to spill blood over all that over all this system. Then you'd better tell me who hired you. I'm running out of patience. Trembor moved closer and readied himself to step in if his wolf decided to attack. They couldn't afford to lose another lead because of his temper. I want some assurance first, the beaver said. Marlot raised a hand, opening it to expose the claws. Valoran's eyes went wide and he spoke quickly. If you hurt me, you'll never find what you want. Trembor was holding his wolf's arm. No, Marl, you need to calm down. Let go of me, Marlot growled. Not until you promise me you won't do anything to him. The enforcers are going to want him in one piece and alive. No, the beaver said. No enforcers. Don't think you're in a position to negotiate, Trembor snapped at him. Valoran smiled. Actually, unless you want to walk out of here with your metaphorical hands empty, you're going to agree to my terms. I don't negotiate with criminals, Trembor stated. What's to stop me from getting what I want from your system? Marlot asked. He sounded calmer, so Trembor released him. His wolf glared at him. Because it isn't there. As soon as I realized someone had traced me back here, I hid everything off-site on an obfuscated and encrypted server. Unless you know exactly where to look, you'll never find the evidence you're looking for. There was a moment of tense silence, and Trevor readied himself to stop his wolf again. But when Marlot spoke, what he said surprised him more than if the wolf had attacked the beaver. Fine. What are your terms? What? We don't negotiate with criminals. I'm not involved in any of this, Valoran said. You forget I'm the one who gave you the information. You get your hacker to forget too. My name never gets mentioned anywhere. No reports, no files. You don't even whisper it in your sleep. No, Trevor stated. Marl, you can't be considering this. He has the evidence we need, Marlot growled. Then we hand him over to the ICD. They'll get what we need from him. You heard him, it's off-site. Even if they do manage to find the server eventually, by then it won't matter anymore. Everyone here is going to have forgotten about it. Marl, the ICD will find it. No, they won't, Trem. I could hide something online in such a way they'd never find it. This guy, just based on what he did at Arcego, is way better. Is way better than I am. If he doesn't want something found, I don't think anyone could find it. Marl, he broke the law. This isn't just petty theft. He destroyed evidence. We have to hand him over. No. Marlot turned to the beaver. You give me the information I need and you don't exist. I'll have my hacker erase anything relating to this. Valoran turned and wrote something down and handed the paper to Marlot. But Trembor grabbed it. No, I'm not letting you do this. Trem, give it to me, now! Before Trembor realized what he'd done, Marlot was holding the paper, and it had been the harsh tone, the anger in his eyes. For a moment, it hadn't been his wolf before him, but someone else. If it doesn't have what you promised me, I'm going to come back, and you're not going to like what I do to you. Am I making myself clear? As clear as a stream. I swear you'll have what you need. We're done here, Trem. Marlot left without looking behind him, and after a moment, Trembor followed, feeling like he was falling right back into an old pattern. It couldn't be. Marl wasn't like that. He was kind and caring, impulsive at times, but he wasn't like him. He couldn't be. Marl, Trembor said once they were outside, you can't do that. I just did. Marl, will you stop and look at me? His wolf stopped, and after a moment, he turned. I need to do this. No, what you need to do is follow the law. You're a registered investigator, not some hoodlum who breaks the law to get what he wants. Marlot raised a piece of paper. You think I'd have gotten this if I'd played by the rules? I told you the ICD can't find it. Fine, you have it, so you can turn him over. No, you heard him. He's monitoring the enforcers. The moment he knows something's going on, he'll move the information. He turned and headed to the car. Trembor hurried after him. Fine, then tell me you're going to turn him over over once you've taken what you need from wherever that it is. No. Marl, I gave him my word. Trevor stopped on the passenger side and looked at his wolf over the car. He wasn't sure he recognized him anymore. If you won't, I will. Marlowe slammed his fist on top of the car and Trevor jumped, not in surprise, but in outright fear. He hadn't reacted like that in years, not since. What's happening to you? Trevor asked, his voice shaking. What's happening? I finally have a chance to get those bastards for something, and you want to stop me. I'm not going to let you do that. Don't do this, Marl. Please. Get in the car. Trevor shook his head and took out his pad. I'm not going to let you screw yourself over just because you're angry. Don't, Tram. It's for your own good, Marl. Began entering a number, but before it connected, his pad went dark. He tried to turn it back on, but nothing happened. When he looked up, Marlot was holding his own pad. He couldn't have. Not this quickly. He was good, but could he really have shut it down in the time it needed to enter the number? The only way was if he'd prepared this in advance. I'm sorry, the wolf said, but you didn't give me a choice. The words made his blood run cold. He'd heard them before many times, and each time the person saying them wore the same chagrined expression. Last time he'd heard them, the tone that had finally shown him just how the ones that had, the last time he'd heard them, the one that had finally shown him in just how bad of a situation he'd put himself, Trembor had been lying on the ground, holding his bleeding face. The male over him had looked chagrined too, and said those same words. How could you? Trembor asked now, as he had then. Marlot gave an exasperated sigh. Just get in the car so we can finally end this thing and leave. Trevor looked at the wolf standing on the other side of the car, at the stranger he thought he knew, and shook his head. He'd sworn to himself he'd never picked himself. He'd sworn to never. He'd swore to himself when he'd picked himself off the ground that day that he would never let himself, wow, that's a lot of himself, be in this position again. He'd sworn when he'd picked himself off the ground that day that he would never be in this position again. And yet, and somehow, here he was. He turned away from this male he thought he'd spend the rest of his life with and began walking. Where do you think you're going? Marlot called after him, with what sounded like annoyance in his voice. Home, he answered, although he didn't know if that was where he was going. He just needed to be away from him. Tram, get back here, the wolf said in that so reasonable tone that implied Trembor was the one being unreasonable. You can't walk all the way there. You don't have a car, and your pad won't work for hours. He'd find a way. He'd get himself out of this situation, just like he finally had that last time. He continued walking, ignoring the wolf yelling after him to come back. And this concludes chapter 36 of A Familiar Death. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be out, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the story as well as the others in the series, you can do that. Yeah, they are available on all major e-retailers. If you want a different way to support me, that is on my Patreon, where you can also get access to just about everything I've written. And if you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. The links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.